Hello and welcome to the See For Yourself podcast, the only podcast where every single desk job is always soul-crushing. I am
But
your
isn't
host.
it though?
Oh, I mean, it consistently tends to, that trends to be the case. I am your host for today. You know how when you get a pimple on a very visible part of your face, like your forehead or like right in between your eyebrows, and you like pop it, but it only makes it worse, so now you have this like thing for like several days? That's me.
Nicely done.
I am joined today by my lovely co-host.
I am Bartholomew Fliptyback. You can call me Barty Flips.
Barty Flips, not to be confused with Barbie Flips, which I imagine is probably a Barbie that you can find somewhere. There's like a craze for backflipping Barbies. Barbies are nuts like that. They always have something for every different kind of Barbie you could possibly want.
You know, it's weird. I get the feeling that probably hasn't been sold yet, but considering we have I know there's wind-up backflipping dogs. That's a thing. Why wouldn't, I think I had a wind-up backflipping Ninja Turtle. How come I haven't seen a backflipping Tumbler Barbie or something like that?
Oh, I'm certain of it. Like Olympic gymnastics Barbie. It has to exist.
What do you got on tap today? That weird red bump after the fact.
Today we are going to be trying to watch the 2015 film Pan. I don't really think that this needs any kind of a introduction. I guess the blurb we'll give is, have you ever seen any of the Peter Pan stuff? It's that. We're doing that.
Sick. Awesome.
In 2015 is when we're doing it.
It's Peter Pan again.
This is kind of like in a weird spot for us as far as our podcast formula goes, because I guess we've never really done like a long-standing franchises, just like I guess this will be my first prediction, because we didn't get this with Prey, and I remember thinking I should have guessed this as a thing that could have happened with Prey. You know how modern film studios like to do this, where they'll go, hey, this is an established thing, that people like, Hellraiser or all of those. I think Hellraiser was the example I gave in Prey. They'll take an established property and then they will start it up again. But instead of giving us like a new twist on it, or like making it like a sequel or a prequel or anything like that, it'll just be, we're going to do the exact same movie, but it'll be set 20 years later or something. They did this with the It movies. You remember It? Right.
So I didn't watch any of the It movies, so I was wondering what the difference was. And I guess it's just that then, that it's It again, the Descendants.
They're calling it soft rebooting, where instead of rebooting a franchise, they'll just sort of do the exact same movie. It's like a complete remake of the original, but with like a new cast, and it's set 20 years later, and all of the events are effectively the same. The original It movie and the new It movies are really, really, really close to being almost the exact same movies. And it's called soft rebooting, and I'm sure that there are a ton of really good examples of this, where instead of continuing a story or having a completely new story, they'll just do the exact same movie, but they'll set it in a different time or a different place or something like that. And it saves on, you don't have to write shit. It's already written for you.
It's an established property. Everybody knows that. I was going to bring up like this kind of, like at least with Prey, I guess Prey falls exactly victim to the same thing I'm about to bring up, but like, Our formula here is predicated on somebody not having seen it.
Yeah.
And so while this is, I believe, technically a golden episode, is it really? This feels like borderline cheating on the premise.
So I have seen just enough about this. I've seen like the trailer for it, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that it is different enough to warrant a viewing. I know that I feel especially frustrated because I know you were really excited to watch Hook, but we had realized that we'd both obviously seen Hook, with...
That's the other thing I was going to bring up, is like, Hook feels like exactly what you described with the soft rebooting thing, where it's Peter Pan, but later.
At least with Hook, they did try to cover the differences in that, like why it's significant that this Peter Pan is an adult now, and like the difficulties he would have to go through to ingratiate himself to the Lost Boys, and how they're like just these young people who've been young for a very, very long time. They are obviously not accepting of adults, right?
Right.
The Hook did try to do that.
That's the thing. It's been done. So what? God, I guess that's gonna have to be one of my predictions. Is what they're gonna fucking change on this one.
Yeah. What do you think they will change to make this one? If we were to say that the thing I said earlier, where they do a soft reboot, is not going to happen, they're not going to do a soft reboot. It's going to be something else. What is the something else?
All right, so if they're just trying to capitalize on something but still do the soft reboot, I think it's going to be that this is like Peter Pan's kid that goes back. Because that'd be different, I guess. Like, they could probably explore, like, like Peter Pan's kid shows up and they're like, oh, so you're basically exactly like Peter Pan, and then he has to spend the rest of the movie being like, no, I'm my own entity, even though I'm descended from the people that you worship.
The Boruto theory.
Yeah. So that would be interesting. But I'm also... Did you ever... I don't know if it's an actual canonical thing in, like... You know how fairy tales, like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, actually have very gritty fucking books that they're based off of?
Yes.
I'm wondering if they're gonna extrapolate on this theory that the Lost Boys didn't get older because Peter Pan kept killing them.
Oh, okay. I think I would be at least somewhat interested to see like a edgier Peter Pan or an edgier take on Peter Pan. That would be kind of cool.
I'd like that. I feel, yeah. But I don't know if people are ready for that, because, like, I know nobody's done the edgy Hunchback of Notre Dame yet.
We're getting... It's not like the edgy take on Winnie the Pooh, but it's like Winnie the Pooh is getting into the public domain here soon. And
oh, that's right.
Yeah, they're making a movie that's just going to be Winnie the Pooh, but he's going around killing people instead of doing the typical Winnie the Pooh things. And I think that it's going to be, instead of being faithful to the original story, it's going to be a lot of just like nods to the original story and then this completely different take on Winnie the Pooh.
By the way, but Winnie Pooh's coming into the public domain, but Winnie Pooh with the red shirt is not, as a distinction.
That's wild.
That's the red shirt is still owned by Disney, but Small Talking Bear is soon to be public domain.
So what, do they just put him in like a... Because like Winnie the Pooh has worn different things other than the red shirt. It's not like he's exclusively in that. He has that... Remember his little like nightgown he like wears to sleep?
Yes, of course. No, it's so the Winnie the Pooh that's going into the public domain is from the original book series where he's just a stuffed bear that wears nothing.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like if you make a movie about that, you could in the movie just have a reason for him to put on, let's say, a white shirt or a blue shirt.
I guess that's true. I don't know enough about copyright law for them to be like, he's putting on a shirt, but it's not red, so we haven't got him yet, guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's Disney. I'm sure if he puts a shirt on at all, they'll be like, see, they're copying us. We own clothes.
We dressed the bear. You can't do that. Fuck.
Oh, I bet. I'm willing to... I'm willing to say that'll probably be a thing we'll see in our lifetime. Fucking Disney squabbling over.
I know. There's going to be this new Winnie the Pooh, and they're like, hey, Winnie the Pooh, do you want to go down to the whatever? And he's going to be like, well, I wouldn't bother. And he said, bother! We own that word!
Oh, no! I'm hoping that the thing that will make this different is that the main character, instead of being Peter Pan, will be Tinkerbell. I always really liked the character of Tinkerbell. I thought she was really cool, and I'd like to see her like have her own adventure as the main character and do her own thing. I know that there have been some movies where that has been the case.
I was about to say that's a whole franchise that they've already like expounded upon with several movies.
Yeah, but to my knowledge, they haven't really done like a
Tinkerbell as Peter Pan's Tinkerbell. It has kind of been like Tinkerbell doing her own damn thing.
Yeah, which is cool in its own right, certainly. But I would like to see live action movie with a big ensemble cast and Tinkerbell specifically taking the role of Peter Pan specifically. And then maybe we could have, how Hook has his assistant guy. I forget his name.
Shmee.
Oh, yeah, right. Shmee. Maybe Shmee is sort of running the boat because Hook is indisposed for some reason. And then at the end of the movie, setting up for a sequel, because, we're Hollywood. We love setting up for sequels. We got to get our money. It's a 2015 movie. Okay, we gotta make our money somehow. It'll be, Peter Pan kind of steps out at the end of the movie and he's like, I'm going to go save Tinkerbell because she is in trouble now. And then, Shmee sort of steps back and Hook is like, oh, Pan is back and I'm going to get him with my hooky hook. And that could set up for a sequel. And that's how I've already called it. I've nailed this movie down.
Hook was about an adult Peter Pan, and so wouldn't it be nice if like another character they could explore is Hook himself? And then I thought tangentially along the fact it's like, oh, adult Peter Pan goes back to Neverland. What if adult Hook, elderly Hook, comes out of Neverland and has to get a real fucking job?
And the naming convention works really well too, because the one about adult Peter Pan coming to Neverland is titled Hook, and the one about going to the real world and having to get a job and hunt down Peter Pan and whatnot is called Pan.
Wouldn't that be nice if they just were continuing that along?
I think that'd be rad. Having like an old fucking jaded pirate man being like, "Oh, what do you mean I can't find a job? This is bullshit."
Right. Work history. I've been scavenging the seas since you were a lad. And it's like, yeah, but like, you have no references.
Willing to bet money he would get a job like working as a thespian, like as an actor. They'd be like, "Wow, he's so over the top." And it just so happens we're doing a stage play version of Treasure Planet, and so like he'd do a great Blackbeard or
yeah, he'd do a great Long John Silver. And in this day and age with Jared Leto being an asshole for method acting, him being full on Captain Hook all the time, people would eat that up.
They'd be like, "God, he's so into it. He just really cares about the craft, instead of being like, no, he's kind of being a dick."
What an asshole.
"No, man, we need to know your social security number so we can pay you. What is your bank account information?" And he's just like, "Yar, the only account I have is an account of hating Pan." we get it, man.
Like, God, he's so good. It's like, listen, we'll pay you cash. And he's like, only doubloons. And it's like, God, he really is just here for the love of it.
It's just all about this shit, huh? I mean, legally we have to pay him, but Jesus. Is he saying he's willing to work for free as long as we give him like the back end? Is that what he's getting at here? I can't tell exactly. I had considered something just now, and I wonder if maybe you're thinking the same thing. Is it possible that this movie is a musical?
When did they make Cats? Were they just hard on for musicals at about 2015?
Cats would have been a couple years later. To my knowledge, no, there weren't a whole ton of very popular musicals in 2015. Not that I know of. But I do, when I think of pirates, just lend themselves very easily to musicals, right?
They do.
And I feel like, Peter Pan already is sort of whimsical. So the kind of people who are willing to watch a Peter Pan movie are typically also willing to watch a musical. And that's the sweet spot you kind of want to hit, right?
I think I wouldn't mind a musical. I don't know if they would have I don't know if they went that way. I'm going to say they didn't. I'm going to say it's not a musical. God, actually, no. It's so hard to say because what if they didn't change anything except that it's a musical? What if this is Peter Pan the Musical?
That would be enough difference for me to say, like, this isn't like a soft reboot or anything like that. This is its own thing, because like musical is just such its own genre that like it's now a totally different thing,
Right. But it's also true enough to like just the core information that they don't have to do a whole lot to it. They're like, we need to hire a guy that can write music that's basically like, here's the script, put it to a song. I'm sure it's harder than that, but I mean, when you're a big industry bigwig and you're just trying to keep cashing in on this IP, a musical would exactly be the way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm willing to watch a musical right now, and I'd certainly be down for it, but none of the information I have indicates that. The movie's genre is family, so I don't know exactly,
Which means we're not even... So it's not going to be gritty. It has to be a musical.
I think they can still pretty much do all the same stuff that they did in Hook and whatnot. There wasn't really any part of Hook that went over the top or had blood or gore or anything, swear words, anything like that. Just, your typical happy, jaunty, swashbuckling adventure. I hope that they don't do the thing like in The Batman. We talked about this in the Batman episode where it's like, well, we've got a PG. That still means we can do these things, or vice versa.
Like they want to do the gritty Peter Pan remake, but somehow still want to cash in on the fact that adults are not going to fucking immediately think that when they see Pan on a poster.
Yeah, like trying to get that wide audience of a PG and like accommodate the MPAA and do all the things the MPAA says, as if they're constantly just holding a gun to the back of the head of any given movie.
God, I wonder if there's actually people that are into that shit, because I remember growing up and it was like, I want to watch this movie, and it's like, oh, well, technically you're not, nobody came at me and was like, technically you're not supposed to see R-rated movies. If anything, my parents would watch it first and be like, yeah, that's not horrible. Like, nobody's straight up getting fucked on camera, so I guess that's not horrible.
Did you have any friends like that, though? You didn't have any friends that were like, oh, if you come over to this house, you can't use any curse words, or the mom and the dad are going to be like, hey, no, don't do that.
No, I mean, I didn't grow up in Georgia, so I guess there wasn't as much of that around. Like, shit, the only thing I remember about that is like having a conversation where it's like, man, I went over so-and-so's house and he doesn't get his ass beat that often, and my parents were like, well, you don't see what happens when you're not there. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's true.
You got me on that one, parents. Please proceed to beat my ass.
That's the only. So you're like, oh, we got to go to the cool parents' house. No, we didn't have that.
No, there was definitely, when I was growing up, there was definitely parents that were like that, who clearly they were just a little too strict about weird specific shit. Well, we don't watch anything over a PG-13 in this house. And you're like ever? Like, I understand not doing it while I'm in the house because you never know.
Right, and I go back to my parents and like, you don't know how my parents are. It's like, no, I get that, but like, you never watch The Exorcist.
You guys never watched Child's Play? You never watched Friday the 13th? You never?
Nothing? No, if anything, the one friend that I would go over, his family had a horror room, and so you'd like go down this weird back hallway, and it was all their memorabilia for like Candyman and shit like that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't have any friends like that. All of my friends were like basic bitch white people, and occasionally like really way too into the Bible type white people. Like their whole personality is, I'm a Christian. We had families like that. My friends were typically not like that. It's hard to make friends with people like that, but like the families were a lot like that a lot of the time. And it was always weird to see like my friends being like just cursing up a storm at school, and then as soon as they get home, they're like, yep, I'm gonna say grace before dinner.
Fascinating. What a fascinating life you lived.
Yeah, I lived. No longer am I living this life of mine. Just going through the motions at my fucking soul-crushing desk job.
Well, you made it out of Georgia, so that's pretty nice. I hear they got peaches, but aside from that, this is the whole side of Georgia that, like, I'm glad I didn't grow up there.
Yeah, there are parts of Georgia that are really nice, but certainly not most of it. I really hope that your prediction of, like, hey, we're going to do a gritty version of Pan is actually wrong now that I'm thinking of it, because this movie is, like, a PG.
So they're going to fuck it up, yeah. I didn't know that this was a PG and listed as a family movie going in. I would have changed my prediction entirely. Because, yeah, like, I don't want to see them poorly do what could be a very cool idea.
Yeah, it is a 2-hour-long PG family film. This is going to be a slog, unless it's a musical. If it's a musical, I imagine this will go by fast, and we'll just be like, wow!
Belting out lyrics within the first 15 minutes, like, I'm going to go get myself a drink.
God, I need some fucking vodka for this. Jesus
Christ.
This podcast does not support alcoholism in any way.
The podcast, no, but per flip-de-back tradition, I do.
I hope that this movie tries to like capture some fun, because I don't know. I get that like in modern times, the pirate adventure isn't looked at as like the cool, fun thing.
You fucking take that back right now.
Not the way that it was back in like the times when it was like wildly popular, like pre-1960.
I just feel like God, we're in a culture now where you can get shut down for almost anything. So there is no way Blackbeard has not been canceled. Just like, but did you hear what he did to his wife? Oh yeah, we can't do movies about that anymore.
Yeah, it would be pretty heinous for Blackbeard to be like a revered and lovable character. Not like they've done that in recent history or anything.
Fuck me.
We're looking at you. Our Flag Means Death. That's the name of it. The show that makes Blackbeard like a PC character.
Oh, good lord. I still need to watch that.
Yeah, Blackbeard is like socially conscious in that movie. Or
in
that show.
What?
Yeah.
All right.
He's still like a killer and like a pillager and whatnot, but he
but instead of being intimidating to his crew, he's just like, did I go a little too far there, guys? I don't want. How do you feel about it?
I'm not trying to intimidate anyone. I want you to be here because you want to be here. We're a family. That kind of boss.
Of course. It's like, guys, I'd really love to give you your share of the loot, but how about a pizza party?
Honestly, I think that's the kind of villainy we deal with today. Like, that is the Blackbeard of today, is bosses who are just like, oh yeah, I know, inflation's up 10%, you're paying so much just for gas to get to work, and groceries and rent and everything is just so expensive now. And you've been working for us for years, so you're our most reliable guy. We need you to stay in the position that you're in, because you're just so, you can do it better than anyone else. We can't make you manager.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like this position, it's pay capped at whatever. So here's a thank you card, and $20 for no, it wouldn't even be $20. I heard a story the other day of someone getting a $5 Subway gift card and it doesn't even pay for a fucking sandwich.
Yep, $5 is not even enough for a sandwich anymore. You would have to at least make it $8, if not a little bit more than that.
And then Blackbeard turns around and says, "Thank you, stockholders. We have had record profits this year."
Of course, the CEO is going to get a $3 million pay bump.
Can we make, you know what, typically we try to fix these movies. Let's scrap the Pan plot entirely and just make Blackbeard if he was a modern day CEO.
One of our first ideas was like, what if, or your idea, I think this was your idea, was what if Hook came to Pan's world and now he's like in the real world and he's trying to figure stuff out and he has to like start from the bottom of like the corporate world, and maybe he's attracted to the idea of like,
hostile takeovers.
Like he's interviewing for jobs and he's noticing some of the sketchy stuff they do to make sure that they don't pay him enough, and like he goes to like your typical office and they're like, yeah, you're basically going to be doing, and they list all the things that like would be expected of an intern, but then they're like, you're not going to get paid, you'll be paid in experience. And he's like, oh my god, I need to work here because these people are cutthroat as fuck.
Oh, it's Wolf of Wall Street, but fucking Neverland. This is brilliant. God, this movie's gonna suck compared to all this shit.
Okay, well, since we've got a couple of good predictions in the bag, let's just go to it. I will tell you something that I learned from the trailer. Since we've already made all of our predictions, we're going to go ahead and go right into it. I'll go ahead and let you know. Hugh Jackman's in this movie.
Jacked man?
Huge jacked man himself. The legend. God.
Beautiful. All right.
Yeah. So
God, who's he gonna? Does it show you who he's gonna be? Is he Peter Pan?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. God, are they gonna have the super racist Native American imagery in this? There's no way, right?
Unfortunately,
Princess Tiger Lily and Chief Wampum or whatever.
When I pulled up to see like who was going to be in this movie, one of the actors that gets pulled up as part of the cast is Nonso Anozie. I'm probably mispronouncing his name, and I'm willing to accept that. He's in a bunch of different, very serious roles, but none of these are really terribly iconic, unfortunately. I wish he was in more stuff that I could say the name of and you'd be like, oh, I know that. He was in most popularly probably Sweet Tooth.
That sounds familiar, but I don't think I saw it.
Yeah, he's the guy who like protects the kid, but like sort of reluctantly. But he's like this big sort of lovable black actor, and he plays a lot of serious roles.
I know what that is.
Yeah,
I did watch Sweet Tooth.
I do not know what is in this movie exactly. If there were to be any of that like sketchy stuff from the original Peter Pan things in this, I would hate to see it fall upon Nonso Anozie's back.
Right. I think, God, I would rather have him be Hook or Smee.
Oh God, I'd love to see him as Hook. I think he'd do a great job.
Like he's got to be one of the pirates. If he's a lead, it's either Hook or Smee.
But we'll just go ahead and get into the movie.
Yeah, let's crack it.
Brace yourself for the jacked Hugh man. And we are back from the movie. Good God. If there was ever a movie to have a lot of discussion for, it was this one. This is the one. Let us hear it.
I was unhappy. I was horribly unhappy. I thought Jacked Human, I thought he was great in that he was basically playing Johnny Depp very well.
I did not get Johnny Depp vibes from him. And I am a pretty big Captain Jack Sparrow scrutinizer. I'm really big into being like, when is Johnny Depp actually acting? And when is he just playing Captain Jack Sparrow, but like with a business suit on or in a chef's costume, or you know what I mean?
Right, no, that's fair.
I did not get that vibe from Jacked Hugh Man, but I really think Hugh Jackman, the only noteworthy part of his performance here really is that we haven't gotten to see him really do this in many of his performances. The performances that he's most well known for are, I'm going to play a really subdued guy with knives coming out of his knuckles.
That's fair.
And his performance as Blackbeard is really over the top, really sinister, very villainous. He gives us those snarls that we really want to see. Very reminiscent, for me at least, of Willem Dafoe playing the Green Goblin. Just that like kind of over the top theatrical performance of a sinister villain. And because of that, I liked it. I actually did enjoy it.
That's fair. I think he was the only character that I enjoyed seeing on screen. I was not happy with this movie because I felt like it was just a big old bundle of callback quips, and not even all of them were well done. I'm going to start with probably the first one I noticed that I was least happy with, and that's Bishop, played by the man whose name you butchered. He's not a bumbling idiot. At least I didn't get that immediately. Blackbeard is like, so the boy is lost, and he says, yes, sir, he is a lost boy. Did you need that? Did you really need that? And it continued on from there.
Yeah, I agree. They mishandled his character a little bit. The character of Bishop was not as well handled as we would have liked, because there were times where it seemed like he was the competent first mate and he was providing like good advice to Blackbeard, and Blackbeard was the bumbling captain. He was just, I gotta get it at any cost. And Bishop's like, well, doesn't it make more sense to, and I like that rendition of the captain first mate dynamic a little bit better than what we got, which was sometimes that, but more often the Bishop's a bumbling buffoon / strong man. He performs those two roles pretty consistently. Either I'm big strong man, I will hit you with my big strong move, or I'm kind of a dopey, well, yes, he is a lost boy. I don't know. The role of henchman is a difficult role in general, but when you're like, I'm not going to say only black character in the movie, but like the sort of the premier black character in the film and the biggest sort of current actor of the black cast in the film is mishandled in this way, and they don't really have a clear direction for him, and they sort of pigeonhole him into these like really lame character dynamics that we've grown entirely too accustomed to. That was something I wanted to bring up really early. How often while watching this film were you just rolling your eyes at the like cliched nonsense going on?
Well, that's it. Like the whole movie I was kind of rolling my eyes. I don't know what the selling point is here, because like I want to say something good about the movie, but like even the parts that were pretty were like not even like there's the part where they're running through the forest and it's supposed to be like cool goofy CGI birds. But you can clearly tell that they're like flailing their arms while their feet don't move. Like you can just tell that.
What was the prettiest, the best part visually for you for the film?
I enjoyed like the opening while they're going at like during that first trip to Neverland, and they've got really fantastical things happening, like the water bubbles that have the fish in them. I thought that was pretty. And there wasn't a whole lot to fuck up there because it really was just like big old shotgun CGI across the screen.
I did not like that, actually. There was a lot of that I just felt like, can we get to the part where we're back to real actors acting with other real actors and not just CGI nonsense? We didn't know this going in because this is a golden episode. Both of us have not seen this. I'd only seen the trailer going in. I did not know this movie was going to be so CGI heavy. And just, you have to do a lot of work to make a CGI heavy movie likable for me specifically. So already I'm predisposed not to like this movie. So that should be taken with everything I'm saying as a critic of film. Know that if there's a lot of CGI, and especially not particularly nuanced CGI, it's just sort of there and you're like, I can tell we're in front of a CGI sunset and it doesn't look very good and it looks clearly faked. Or the Neverland birds or whatever they called them, the Neverbirds. Those were CGI and terrible the whole way through. If they could just spend a little bit more money on those, I would not have been so offended, but good God was I offended every time they were on screen. For me, the best scene in the movie, the most beautiful, was when the pirates are attacking the native people and they're just like shooting them and they turn into these big clouds of like paint, and it's sort of a callback to Hook, where there was a lot of like paint aspects, and like the clouds of paint were an aspect of
the whimsy of the Lost Boys and shit like that.
The Lost Boys, yes. I thought that was really cool, and it looked good, and it was a fun way to get around, like, well, how do we show someone getting shot to death and not include any gore? And that's...
I did think that one part, like, while I didn't think it was the prettiest, I thought it led to, like, that very interesting scene where Peter's hiding underneath them while they're getting interrogated, and he's like, bon voyage, and kills the guy, and Peter's covered in blue dust, and I was like, that was a really nice way of handling this for a PG movie.
Yeah, I think that PG movies should take advantage of this more often. If PG movies would be willing to have a creative way to show someone dying or getting murdered or something, graphic, but in a creative and interesting and imaginative way, I think they could still get away with being PG, but have something that we haven't seen before, which makes it inherently interesting and lets me give you the pass on, not just going for the R rating.
I kind of wish that they had done the James Hook reveal later in the movie. It felt out of place, and it left this unless this is what they were going for. Like, if they were going for the tension that we as audience goers who know the story, for us to just constantly have this tension there that's just contrived.
No, you're right. I think you're absolutely right. They did not play with the tension of, we revealed that this is James Hook. I guess the moment where that is played with the most is in the third act, main characters separating from each other. You know that the ending's coming around the corner scene where he leaves, and we're kind of supposed to believe, okay, he's James Hook. Like, he's Captain Hook. He might be just fucking off to fuck off. Well, he might join Blackbeard. And right. I thought that would be more. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
So I feel like revealing it so early was a mistake. It would have felt better, like, if that was the twist ending at the end or something like that, or if they had done something with it. A couple of things that I'm sure are just, like, stupid little plot holes, but, like, if I was Blackbeard, I'd have just killed the kid outright in the first place instead of whatever the fuck happened there.
I do think the reason for that is that Blackbeard is, at least somewhat, and they probably should have done a better job of translating this to the audience, Blackbeard is somewhat of the belief that there might be some utility in keeping the kid around. And I agree. They didn't translate that to the audience very well. And they should have had like a scene where him and Bishop are arguing about it. And Bishop, again, a good chance for Bishop to be the more intelligent first mate and say, hey, we should just kill the kid. And then Blackbeard trying to like move the little wheels in his brain, be like, no, let's keep him around just in case there's some utility in keeping him around. And Bishop's like, no, just kill him. And that would be a cool moment.
I would have also appreciated if like, because we had this weird rapid fire scene where they're like, and your mother used to belong to Blackbeard and then she ran away and blah, 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 blah. And that was all just like odd exposition. Would have also been nice if it was like Blackbeard kept him alive because like whatever. He's actually got some soft spot in him for this woman and consequently her kid. That would have been neat as well.
I 1000% agree. Like, he's like, I don't care that you're the chosen one who's supposed to kill me. I don't care about that. I loved your mother and I love you. Please come and just be around me. I'd love to be there with you. I'd love to help you raise you into a proper man and have good form. And he keeps referencing good form. It's bad form to do that. It's good form to do this. I would love for him to have like an interaction with Peter where he opens his heart to him, really. And that would make Peter's like refusal of him all the juicier.
Yeah, it would have been lovely. And then the final thing that I absolutely hated, the fairies could have just won on their own, apparently. But they didn't because they didn't have Peter to point at Blackbeard or do his little Kamehameha blast of fairies at That part really pissed me off.
Yes. Peter ascending to fairy Jesus status and then using his newfound Matrix Neo powers to command the fairies.
Fairy laser beams.
Yeah. Even though the fairies are getting lit on fire, they're dying, presumably. Unless the fairies, like, we didn't see any fairies die. It could have just been the fire was around them and they were like, we're fairies. We love fire. Yay, nature.
Right. We have no idea.
We have no clue. There could have been 0 fairy casualties this entire time and they're just like, man, these people are really coming in here like that, huh? All right, word. That's chill.
Yeah, we don't have a clue. Like I swear to God, like all of the tension rests solely on the fact that you know how the Peter Pan story goes, and they're just like, here's another callback. Was that cool? Remember when they said this in Peter Pan? And we're like, yeah, I remember. Thank you. And they're like, all right, here's some cool CGI stuff. And they're like, no, the CGI isn't that good. And it's like, what if we put another callback next to the CGI? And they're like, guys, I don't think you got anywhere close to the formula. Like, something didn't happen here.
I made the prediction that Tinkerbell might be the main character, and that might be kind of cool to see sort of the fairies' perspective. And we got a little bit more fairies than, the exact opposite of what I said, but they were mishandled completely. And specifically, Tinkerbell's character shows up, dances around in front of Peter, and he's like, I understand her because I'm half fairy and I understand these things. I can understand what she's saying. Cool.
And this one's Tinkerbell. Okay, bye.
Yep. And that's all they use Tinkerbell for, and it is so impossibly frustrating.
Tiger Lily, too. Like, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure how this was meant to be played out, but there was I vaguely remember some tension where Captain Hook wanted Tiger Lily in like the original, and now there's like I don't know, she was entirely too receiving of the flirting and the praise and stuff like that compared to like, if we're to assume that this leads into Peter Pan that we all know and love, it's a very weird dynamic they have going on.
I like Tiger Lily's character in this film. She is kind of that cool warrior badass, but she doesn't have like 0 femininity, which is typically how, like, if we're going to put like a progressive female character in a movie, they tend to just be like, let's just make her a man. And she has no femininity whatsoever. She still has some aspects of femininity where she's receptive to flirting and, those kinds of things. And I'm not saying that's the only way a character can be feminine, but like sort of in the executive, somebody who's running something like Disney or a big Hollywood exec would be like, yeah, make her less feminine. She doesn't flirt with anybody. But she got to do some flirting and giggling and smiling at the guy and everything. And there was a cute little like unspoken romance, sort of. I do think that the movie really, I called this one for sure. The movie did end trying to set up for another movie.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That dialogue at the end where he's like, well, I'm the chosen. He says I'm the chosen one. Jesus Christ. What that has to be the worst thing you can do in a chosen one story is say, I'm the chosen one.
It's me because I said, yeah, I also was not a fan of, because that, I get like what you're saying that they were trying to do. The whole point where like, where he's collected all the rest of the orphans. So what, is he a pirate? And he's like, no, well, not yet. What makes you think he's going to? What has occurred?
We literally just defeated all the pirates. Unless you mean that he's like captain of a ship, and being captain of a ship does not make you a pirate. So where are you going with this, Peter? It seems weird. Like if you're trying to appoint him, if you're trying to say, oh, but he'll be captain of this ship, just say that instead. Don't say he'll be a pirate eventually. That's a weird thing to put on somebody.
I was secretly hoping that this would turn dark at the end and sort of like Pan's Labyrinth, that they would all just have died in the bombing in the opening scene.
I would really like it if it did sort of a Pan's Labyrinth thing where it sort of revealed that like the whole story was sort of hopeless by the end of it, and we're waiting for a different Peter Pan, and the legend of Peter Pan as it exists with the Lost Boys is something completely of myth and lore, and it has nothing to do with Robin Williams. The guy named Peter Pan in Hook isn't the same Peter Pan that we experienced all these years ago. You're just putting that on him despite it not being him, which is one of the themes of the movie. I'm not the chosen one if such a thing ever existed. And then it turns out he was, but like...
Just kidding, I wasn't confident enough.
It could have been really cool to have him be killed off at the end by Hook, screw you, kid, whatever, something. And then that causes all the bad blood with everybody, or like what he thought was a clever assassination attempt wasn't all that clever and people saw it, something,
or anything, or like you're saying, so in like the Legend of Zelda series, the hero of time, Link, is like always somebody different. Like that's the whole point of it. It's like time has progressed and a new Link shows up or some shit like that. Like if they had explored that would have also been cool. God, this movie sucks so bad.
There were good things about it. Did your jaw drop in the Nirvana scene?
What do you mean the Nirvana scene?
When he finally gets to Neverland and all the people are singing that Nirvana song, hello.
Oh, yeah. So at first I was like, what are they singing? And then like finally it caught on to me that they were singing that song. And they did it again like the next time everybody's gathered at the pit. And I just thought it was so strange. I'm sure there's something in there that makes a lot of sense. Because like what so what's the name of the song that they keep fucking they're singing in the beginning? I think it's Smells Like Teen Spirit?
No, I think that's exactly right. Yes, it is that song.
So just per the title, like that's perfect. Like I think that's perfect for like a Neverland kind of thing. It's just it felt very awkward for them to be like chanting it as some sort of event for Blackbeard. And
let's just talk about the logistics of that for a second. Like, did Blackbeard have to like teach all of these people individually? Like, no, it's hello, and not just hello. That's not how it goes. You have to hello, down, up, down, up. There's a lot that goes into teaching a bunch of people to sing something in unison. Jesus, I don't know. I did not like that. I was extremely put off both by that and the Blitzkrieg Bop, because that done.
Right. I heard that one too, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like like first off, why would you decide this as the soundtrack for your Neverland story? Who made that decision? And then, like, if we want to talk about it through the story that's going on in the movie, what is going on with Blackbeard? Does he just come back every now and then, steal a couple kids, and, like, flip on the radio, and he's like, yeah, that's a good one. I'll take that.
Sort of the precursor to Blackbeard, though, really quick, and I'm sure I'm derailing you a little bit. The head nun that's, like, running the orphanarium.
Who's clearly evil, like, from the rip.
She, like, I get that there's a portion of these kinds of movies that's trying to encapsulate that, I don't know, cartoon, angsty kind, not cartoon angst.
The hopelessness of being an orphan?
No, like a lot of the action and the gags and whatnot are kind of reminiscent of cartoons. And I felt like out of all the characters, even the over-the-top Blackbeard, like him being as over-the-top and whimsical as he could be, the most cartoon-esque character was the nun that ran the orphanarium. Like at the end of the movie, when they all finally escape and go off to Neverland together with Peter Pan, she busts through the door and just like growling at them. Oh, what a she was written the best out of everybody else. Like she feels like she's supposed to be in a kid's like live action version of what is a cartoon effectively.
Right.
She did such a good job. I don't know who that actress is. God bless her. She did so good. Talk about characters who you feel good about them being on screen. That fucking lady, every time she was on screen, I was like, yes, Queen Slay.
Right. I don't know. She did her character really well. And then, like, if you want to talk about, like, jaw-dropping scenes, how it gets to the end where, like, she's raising the pirate flag, and it's like, oh, she's selling them to pirate. Jesus Christ, they thought us, like, that was a nice little wrapped-up fucking arc there.
Yeah. Mustache twirling villain nailed it.
For sure.
I don't think there was a single other character that if you were to just try to describe their... I guess Hook is just like generic white savior guy.
Well, yeah, so that's the thing. It's like, I don't know where his progression goes from here to Captain Hook, you know? Like,
I think they left that. I think they left that purposefully ambiguous and like unanswered because they wanted to do another movie after this one, but nobody fucking watched this movie, and I feel bad because like I love to see Hugh Jackman trying other roles other than, you know, what he's become popular for. It's just not like, all in all, it's not a good movie.
Yeah, I think that's just what it is like they didn't take enough chances and they changed just enough for it to be confusing. The callbacks didn't even help. I didn't like it. Like, I just didn't like the movie, and I feel like...
So I think the big problem with the callbacks specifically, if we were to nail it down to one thing specifically, is that the callbacks both want you to have seen the source material, like seen maybe Hook or one of the other renditions of Peter Pan, understand them, be able to recognize them, and also it relied very heavily on you sort of watching this as a first-time experience.
Like, they wanted this to be the reboot of the story, but they wanted enough recognition from the previous renditions.
Yeah, so I think I did successfully call that. This is a soft reboot where they want to have it both ways, where this can be your first time ever seeing a Peter Pan movie, but also you've seen all the other Peter Pan stuff, and this is something kind of new. But it's not. It doesn't work as something kind of new. It literally, if you watch this movie side by side while Hook is also playing, you will be like, oh my god, they basically just copied this shit.
But Hook was so good.
Yeah,
I feel like I need to go back and watch Hook and be like, is this what it was? Is this what an introspective person saw when they watched Hook for the first time?
Yeah, so it's almost like the opposite. An introspective person would have seen Hook and like seen a lot of the cool, loving practical effects and things like that. That's my big problem with CGI heavy films. If you're doing a lot of CGI in your movie, I immediately feel like there's less love put into it. Less like realism. It doesn't feel as like this is actually a performance and I'm getting lost in it and I really feel like this is actually happening kind of. And then I see the credits roll and I'm like, oh right, this was just a movie. This wasn't real life. If you see CGI, you're like, this isn't real life. This is fucking nonsense. This is bullshit. And I do that every damn time. Whenever I see CGI that's unbelievable, where it's just nonsense bull crap, I'm just like, this is nothing. This is stupid. I'm wasting my time right now. And it's unfortunate because I don't think everybody feels that way. And I'm sure that there are probably plenty of people who watch this movie and they're like, wow, I loved all the CGI effects. They were so good and they felt nice. And it was cool to like watch the little stories play out in these cool little marionette kind of CGI stories. That's neat. I do not feel that way. And that makes me feel like Hook is just strictly the better movie. And it does copy a lot of the formula from Hook because you're right, Hook was so fucking good.
Even more so laid up against this. Just like, this felt like such a cop-out story. And then they use cop-out tropes to progress their cop-out story. So I was willing to accept the whole like, hey, we've got this tree that basically plays us a movie from the past. And it's like, cool, the exposition tree. And then they're like, but you lied to me. And they're like, well, we kind of lied to you. Quick, let's go to the exposition pond and we'll play you another movie. And it's like, what the fuck, people?
I agree. That was exactly the kind of stuff that just frustrated the shit out of me. And it makes you feel kind of betrayed, man. Because you're right. Like, it would be easy for someone to watch that and be like, all right, I'm willing to give them, there's a magical tree that magically shows you little stories. You know, that's cool. But there's also...
I even thought the, like, special effects there were nice. Because it reminded me of Bunraku, where it's like, it felt like little miniatures, little paper miniatures or something like that. Like, that at least felt cool. And then the second pass at it was such a pile of shit.
And can we just talk about how off-putting the CGI mermaids were?
How they were all the same chick?
Oh, God. Something about that was just wrong.
Right. And it's like, I expected something else out of that, where they're like, it was a whole thing. It's like, we're going to go to the mermaids because pirates hate crocodiles. And then it's like, oh, that was only there for like the ha, he might have lost his hand and became Captain Hook right now. But then it's like, crocodile fight. It's like, all right, but the crocodiles aren't really doing that much. And then the mermaids are like, stop it, you mean little crocodile. And it's like, cool, so what about the mermaids? Oh, They served their purpose. They're done. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Can we just talk about how the crocodile was like the gentlest crocodile ever?
I'm just gonna take you by your little belt loop, boy.
Yeah,
What the fuck?
It's doing the crocodile, I'm gonna drown you underwater by like keeping you under, which is a grim thing to think about. But it's just carrying him by like the back of his clothes or his belt or whatever the fuck. Come on, man.
Right. And then it's like, ow, don't hit me, mermaid. Fine, you can have him. Jeez. What a fucking nothing scene that was.
I was just about to swim him up to the surface and give him back to his people, but you guys like smacked me in the face and now I'm mad.
And then, so it's like, after that, the mermaids are gone. It's like, weren't they going to Mermaid World for like some fucking reason?
I don't even know why they introduced the idea of mermaids. I know it's like a connection to other movies, whatever, but God, what a waste. What a waste of time. What a waste of cool potential stuff. Oh, I am fairly disappointed by this movie, especially since like there were parts of it where I was like, man, it's kind of nice to be back in Neverland. All the parts where they were hanging out with the indigenous people, and Kwahu was such a cool character, and he did all this cool like kung fu stuff, and he has one other interaction in the movie where he's like, Peter, all this is your fault, basically.
I know, it's like, what a piece of shit!
And like, why are we meant to hate Kwahu? He's like the best fighter. They should have had him along for the final fucking fight.
Yeah.
Have him come with, and like he could have beat up on some people, and that would have been fun to watch.
So when you mentioned like, oh, it's nice to be back in like Neverland, it's like, I would have liked to see like the Neverland, I don't know, I don't want to say like prehistoric Neverland, but like untouched Neverland. Because like when they crash that first ship and like the back half falls off and hits the ground, and it like immediately I got this feeling like in the original Peter Pan, they had that fucking like underground tunnel system, and it's like, oh, this is gonna be their headquarters or something, and it's like, nah, I just needed the map, bruh. Moving on.
A lot of wasted potential, man. This is one of those movies where it's a family movie in that it's not meant for like people to really try to take it apart. It's trying very much to be enjoyable for the family, but specifically the kids to see these big CGI crazy things that they're not going to really tell like that's not real.
Right. I think that's exactly it, because like you had mentioned, like this movie relies on this being your first trip to Neverland, but also we're calling back your previous trip to Neverland. So I think it's supposed to be for the adults to go like, haha, Lost Boys. You wouldn't get it. You never saw the original. And for the kids to be like, wow, that's a really creepy bird with googly eyes and an empty rib cage or whatever. That's neat.
Those are real? That's crazy. That kind of reaction. Yeah, I think that it's for those like parents who just want to like drop their kids off at the theater and maybe like catch like a couple hours of nap. And then when they're like, yeah, and then James Hook, he was there and he became the captain at the end. He's Captain Hook. And they're like, oh yeah, I know Captain Hook. And they're like, really? And it's like, yeah, I know about what you're fucking prattling on about my annoying child creature.
God, was there anything like really good? Like, aside from like their creative use of "This Isn't Blood," which I do think was really neat. Like, at least in that one scene or the two scenes. God, was there anything good here? Like, did they do anything really well? Because if they did, I missed it.
This was a very middling movie, and to stand on the shoulders of Hook and try to say like, hey, you should consider this because we're giving it a similar naming convention that we gave Hook. Instead of Captain Hook, we named it just Hook. So instead of Peter Pan, we'll name it just Pan. So it kind of like gives you questions about like, it doesn't stand on Hook's shoulders in any way really, other than that like this is sort of a prequel to that movie, I guess, even though it doesn't really function as a prequel because Peter Pan goes back to Neverland. Hook is kind of predicated on the idea that Peter leaves Neverland and doesn't come back. So I don't know if they were intending for this to be a prequel to Hook, but it doesn't really function that way. At least not this movie by itself. Maybe a second movie.
Maybe it's less of a time gap, because I don't know when Hook takes place, but this basically taking place World War II.
I think it'd probably be like 30 or 40 years later, so it does make sense a little bit. 30 years later, 1970s, 1980s. I don't know when Hook was set exactly, but I don't know. And like, God, man, setting this specifically during World War II. They could have set this in like 1950, or they could have set this in like just before the war started.
Blackbeard times or something like that, or maybe just after Blackbeard times. I was hoping they'd get some fucking mileage out of that World War II thing. They had the whole put the gas masks on and get to the bug out shelter, and it was a whole thing. And then that was the end of the thing. We had a whole military comms room being like, and it looks like a pirate ship, and it's like, that's a funny scene if like we're gonna explore this being, I don't know, a World War II allegory or whatever the fuck it is they could have done. Yeah. But they didn't. Like, that was it. It's like, hey, by the way, this is in World War II, and you're like, that's cool, why? And they're like, no, now we're in Neverland, shut up.
Yeah, we're not gonna remember any of that crap. Quit trying to bring it up. The movie kind of functions as is basically just like the quest for the eternal fountain, or the fountain of youth, I mean, and he gets there and he gets to the fountain of youth. I did think that actually, of all the things that are going to be sort of unspoken about this movie, the aspect of Blackbeard using fairy dust specifically so that he can live forever, and the way that they showed us that without actually really telling it to us, that was really cool.
I did like that. That one scene was really cool. I was a little bothered in the beginning when they're like, yeah, we're gonna have you mine for fairytonium or whatever the fuck they called it. Yeah. I was like, all right, this is kind of weird. And when it culminated in him putting on that mask and getting younger, I was like, oh, this could be really cool. And then we don't touch it again.
In his final fight with Tiger Lily, I thought that's when they were going to touch on it again. Like, he gets a little bit older during, and Tiger Lily kind of gets the physical advantage over him because she's young and capable and he's ancient. Maybe he like grabs like a fairy and then squeezes it and then like eats the dust, and that youngs him up again. And we could be like,
something to actually give some stakes to this. But like, even his death was so half-assed, where it's like, no, but we called back to the song that we sang when we first came to Neverland, and it's like, that's cool, but we didn't really discuss any of that, like the older versus the younger or anything like that. Like, we didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, why are we not taking the time to discuss the themes here? It feels really a lot like this is just, hey, we're gonna make callbacks to Peter Pan a whole bunch and then never do anything with these characters we've created. And like, Blackbeard's a cool character. He's the scariest pirate who ever lived, and he's now gone to Neverland and has captured all of these people to keep him young. And like, wow, that could have been really, really cool. But they wasted so much time on like, it
was a 2-hour movie. Like, yeah. It's not like they didn't have time to like pick something and run with it, but they're like, no. What a fucking half-assed everything. And really, that scene with Blackbeard getting younger, like, you blink and it's gone. I would not put it past anybody to miss that scene entirely.
Probably one of the coolest scenes in the movie, and you could have absolutely missed it. I agree. So one of the things that gets brought up in the movie, and again, does not get touched upon at all, is that Peter's so happy to see his mother, but he expressly states, how do I love someone that I've never met? How can you do that? And I'm like, that is a profound thing, my dude. How has that not been a part of your character at all?
Right. God, that would be fantastic. Like, and then you've got pirates in the movie, and I feel like I don't know what the word for it is, because nostalgia is fond remembering of something that, like, you've been through. Like, that's nostalgia. And fucking, there's got to be a word for nostalgia for shit that you haven't experienced. Like,
there is a word, but I do not know it.
Yeah. But I mean, I say it all the time. It's like, man, I was born 200 years too late to be a pirate. And for, like, Peter to be getting yanked out of World War II by pirates and not being like, what a fantastic thing I suddenly get to do. But instead they're like, no, look at this CGI bubblefish. Isn't that neat? Isn't that way better than World War II? Forget about World War II. Now we're in Neverland. What the fuck? Like, it's such a fever dream of just shit getting shoved in your face and then ripped away.
I think that trying to discuss the idea of you can be born in, the 1990s and wish that you were born in the 1920s. That's a normal thing that a lot of people are experiencing. And a lot of people are experiencing, specifically in 2015. I remember people being vocal about that. I remember people all the time saying that, like, yeah, oh, well, I was born 40 years too early, or I guess 40 years too late. I should have been born 40 years earlier. I feel a great loss for that every time I look back on this older culture that I identify more with. That could have been a cool thing to talk about in the movie.
Something fucked up here. Like, everybody was spitballing and storyboarding for this thing. They're like, wow, that's a really good idea. And then somebody else was like, yeah, but what about this? And they're like, oh, that's a really good idea. But I don't want to get rid of that guy's idea, so we're just going to have both ideas. And this just went on and on until they're like, all right, we've got 2 hours of ideas. Where do we start making... fuck it. We're not going to cut anything. We're just going to put all the ideas on screen one at a time.
And so much of it is just like, let's make a shout out to this thing. Let's make a shout out to that thing. God, come on, man. I'd rather a competently made movie that's just trying to talk about one or two things than this, where we're just going to reference the original source material a bunch and not really have a clear through line that we're trying to do.
I know, what a huge pain in the ass this was. I'm so disappointed in it. I'm disappointed in the people who made this. This is like so ungodly frustrating because I wanted to like it. Like, it's Peter Pan, and like I grab Ashley and I'm like, hey, do you want to watch new Peter Pan? And it's like, oh, that'll be neat. And even by the time we got to the end of the movie, she's like, I wish that was darker. And I'm like, fuck fuck yeah, just anything. I wish it was anything but what it was.
Did you pitch her the musical idea? Because I think the
Yeah,
musical.
she thought that was a great idea. And the fucking the devil is a part-timer, but Captain Hook, also brilliant.
Dog, we need to just start writing screenplays already. Fuck this podcast shit.
We're changing the podcast name. It's not like it's See for Yourself. It's like, oh god, we need to have like a monthly bit. See for Yourself did it better, and it's just like, all right, guys, everybody in Hollywood, fucking sit down and shut up, and we'll teach you what's up.
We will show you where you fucked the fuck up. Oh god. Okay, well, I think that's enough fucking punching this fucking movie while it's down. Because I do believe this movie didn't do terribly well in the box office. Let's, you know what, just...
was it already like a failure before I called it out on being one?
Yeah, I think it might have been. So let's just double check. Yeah, their budget was 150 million, and its worldwide gross was 120, or its worldwide total was 128 million. Oh god. And then there was also the total that was spent on marketing, which was between 100 million and 125 million.
Oh, so it's really right down in the shitter.
Hook did 300 million.
Well, and what was their budget with their practical effects?
70 million.
Holy ballsack. Oh, God, just make Hook again. Just fucking reshoot Hook.
Just scene for scene, copy the whole damn thing. Fuck it.
Yeah, that's all you had to do. Man, I'm gonna go watch Hook later just to get this out of my fucking mouth.
Fun fact, and I know we've mentioned this in the past, but there is a Peter Pan movie that stars Johnny Depp.
Is there?
Yep. Finding Neverland.
All right.
Johnny Depp and Kate Winslet. It was a
Maybe
2004 film.
Maybe we'll have to do that one of these days. God, because now I'm starving for like a good Neverland movie.
It really does suck because Neverland is such a cool place, you know?
It's full of like cool themes that you can just fucking get at. Shit, I remember, like I brought up earlier, the Notre Dame book version, and it's like Captain Hook escaped from Peter Pan, so Peter wouldn't kill him and make him one of the lost boys. There's so many cool things that they could have done here instead of like this weird fucking... God, it looked like they were trying to shoot Uncharted, and they were like, well, we've got all this extra stuff. It's like, well, we can make a Peter Pan movie out of it. That's pretty close to that. It's like, yeah, get everybody back. Have them say a catchphrase real quick, and we'll make a second movie.
I do think that this movie is thirsty to have a sequel, and I don't think that having a sequel would fix any of the problems, really, other than the problem of, like, Hook's character is kind of bland.
Yeah.
If they had just gone in for Hook's character on the idea of being a puckish rogue and, like, not committing to, like, either being a good guy or being a villain, and at the end of the movie, he commits to being a good guy, and he's like, yeah, I'll probably be a good guy for forever. I love doing this good guy stuff. And then Tiger Lily's like, well, you know, there's nothing wrong with, you know...
Forever's a long time. Blah, 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 blah. Like, that's another thing about Neverland, right? It's like, they're like, oh, I don't want anything to change. Everything has to stay the same forever. And it's like, that could have been explored through Hook's shitty character building that they did in this movie. But it's gonna take a whole nother fucking movie to, like, do anything with it.
The best scene for Hook was probably when he's like, they had just crash landed after escaping from Blackbeard's raid on the native people. She, like, immediately gets up and is like, Peter, are you okay? And he's like, oh, I'm okay, I guess. Fuck me, right? And she's like, hey, this is all your fault because blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, what about Shmi? Shmi was the one that, like, sold us out. And she's like, no, you should have known that Shmi would sell you out. And I'm like, what the how the fuck is he supposed to know that?
Right, what is all... There is so much... I think there's like 3 times in this movie they're like, you're guilty by association. And it's like, is that the theme? Is that the overarching theme that you guys are shooting at? Because they did it once in the fucking orphanage. They did it there. I feel like there's another place where they did it.
It feels like that's like a thing that's in there, but they don't really harp on it a lot. Like, why is it inappropriate to say that somebody is guilty by association and why that's like illegitimate as a form of justice?
Right. Even though they keep bringing it up, and it ends up being brought up as making the character who said it look like a fucking asshole.
But they never actually play that out. Like, they never say, wow, what a fucking bitch the princess is being for saying that, like, he's guilty because he didn't know that a friend of his would be a sellout.
Yeah, I feel like they're just writing the script and then put more words. We need more words to fill up 2 hours. Because, like, that whole bit, like, could have expanded on something where it's like, I'm sorry for being wrong sometimes, or fucking whatever. Like, and then that's done. Like, we're done with the conversation now.
Or like how Hook's character is that when people's lives are on the line, he'll say what he needs to say to save lives. And the princess does not feel the same way. And how, like, one of them is a little bit more wrong than the other for that. But the princess feels pretty indignant about it, so she gets to, in the eyes of the film filmmaking seem like she's right, but she's wrong. Like, he saved lives by or he was trying to save lives by revealing that there was a map, and
which is like fucking whatever. It's like I'm sure he would have figured that out anyways. It was such a small amount of extra information to be like, hey, a map exists. It's like, okay, they were gonna ransack the place anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're already going to run through this place with all these different men and you're already torturing everybody you're coming across effectively, either somebody was going to say it or they were just going to come across it by happenstance.
So, like, it's not like you told them where it was. It's like he straight up bought enough time. And, like, I don't... God, just the more we talk about this movie, the angrier I get.
I don't think this movie is like completely pointless. I'm sure it fulfills a very good role in like putting a movie in front of children. But a lot of the stuff in it is like, why the fuck would a kid give a fuck about Nirvana? This was clearly just for like the parents to be like, I know this song, haha.
Which sucks, because it's like, I understand like the movie machine must keep marching on or whatever, but like to do nothing, to like have all these fucking disconnected ideas and jam them into 2 hours of not even like an hour and a half a movie, not even like this is a clean 90 minutes. It's like, no, I feel like you've brought up before, it's like, no, this movie's like 2 hours, which means they cared enough about the message they're trying to send to add a half an hour onto like the budget movie time. And much like that time, it was like an extra half hour of unnecessary crap.
Yep. I paused the movie right at the 90-minute mark, just by pure chance. I was like, man, this movie's still going on. I wonder how much more time there is. I paused it. It was right at the 90-minute mark, and it said, like, there's another 25 minutes of this shit. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, can we not? That is exactly why I am always pressing for that clean 90-minute runtime, because that tells the audience, like, hey, we wanted to do a feature film, but we're not trying to waste any of your time. We're a feature film, and that's it. We're not like all this extra stuff. If a movie is more than an hour and a half long, it is trying to tell you as an audience member, this should be worth all those extra minutes. This was not.
Yeah, I feel like that's what it should be, but there's like a fine line between... we had something that we really needed to show you, and it required the extra 90 minutes. And, like, I think the other half of that line is just poor storytelling or poor directing or poor... I don't know who makes that decision, but for them to be like, I'm not smart enough to figure out how to say the nothing I was trying to say in 30 fewer minutes.
So it's equal parts directing, writer, and editor. All three of those people had the opportunity to say, this isn't necessary, let's cut it. But they continuously, at every point of the production, chose not to. So it's not even like there was like one key moment for each of them. They were always choosing, no, let's leave that in. We gotta leave that in. We gotta leave that in. Most movies, like when they record all of it, it's many more hours than just an hour and a half. They cut it down. They cut it down to an appropriate amount of time. Let's
bring up the stupid googly eye birds again. Like, we could have shoehorned them into another scene. Like, maybe that scene where we're going past the fucking the bubble fish in the entry to Neverland. We could have introduced them there, and then we wouldn't have had to have 10 fucking minutes of running from them. And then we still could have brought them up later to save the fucking the native village.
Yeah, Tiger Lily and Hook. Yeah, and ostensibly they saved everybody else, but really, like, they didn't? Question mark?
Yeah, they kind of didn't, because at the end of it all, it's like, hey, I need to go get all these orphan kids to repopulate Neverland again.
Yeah,
and but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a trained director. I have no experience in this shit, and in 30 seconds, I solved 10 minutes of editing for them.
It is frustrating. The more I learn about these, like, because I watch interviews of directors and things like all the time. I want to know their experiences. I want to know the problems that they had and the creative solutions that they came up with. I feel like that's good, like, training for me, so that if ever the day comes, I can be like, well, actually, a good solution for this is this. I think that this movie suffered from the problem that, like, Lion King kind of had, where the new CGI Lion King came out, right? They're trying to make this, CGI live action, quote unquote, Lion King. It's not live action. It's all CGI. But they're like claiming that the style that they did it in is so advanced that it basically is live action. It's not. You can tell it's CGI the whole fucking time. And they talk a lot in the interviews about how, like, we had all the time and all the money in the world to make this movie. I think maybe this movie kind of suffered from a similar problem. Sometimes having all the time and the money in the world gives you this shit.
Now that makes sense. Not directly related to movies, but I did watch some documentary on, like, the creep of like way back in the day. If you wanted to get Zork on your computer, you had to buy the box that had fucking 3 floppy disks on it, and it had to work the first fucking time. And and each floppy disk is, how is the floppy disk? Like 128 meg or something like that?
It's very little.
Yeah.
Very, very little.
So they had to optimize and re-optimize and just make sure the perfect thing worked the first time as small as possible, and like all these hoops that you had to jump through. And nowadays it's like I go to buy a game on Steam and it's like, yeah, this thing's fucking 128 gig, go fuck yourself, and it's full of bugs.
Yeah, it's not even finished yet and we're already selling it to you.
So it's like nobody optimized it and nobody tried to make sure it ran right the first time. And it's like it part of that is because we have so much space. It's like, yeah, everybody's got a terabyte hard drive. I'm gonna throw 300 gigs of shit at you, go fuck yourself. But much like what you're saying, I feel it's like, oh, we've got whatever this was, $300 million to throw at Peter Pan. How could we go wrong? We're too big to fail. Too
big to fail has got to be the worst thing that can be put on a movie. Some of the greatest movies of all time were like, hey, can we just get another $1 million, please, 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 please? And they're like, no, I don't know if we can do that. And then they just like kind of, they find a way to make it work. And then we get Elf, or we get Home Alone, or we get, those kinds of movies that just like struggle with that like last little push because they wanted to put in one more scene, like we cut as much as we could, but we want this one scene that's going to cost like a couple $100,000, and we just, we really need it. This movie did not have that problem. All right, well, we've bitched and moaned about this movie for long enough, and it's not the worst movie ever. It's a movie that you should see with your kids and not think about it all. Just put it on and turn your brain off and just go, oh ha ha, I know Nirvana. Oh ha ha, Blitzkrieg Bop. I'm aware of that song.
Wow, that's pretty clearly fake CGI, but like at least it's pretty. God, what a push. I'm gonna find out who made this. You're taking time away from me tracking down the people who made this.
Well, just so you know, Jon Favreau, probably one of the greatest directors of our time, made the CGI Lion King movie that everybody fucking hates.
Oh, really?
We've talked about Jon Favreau in the past, and he is very, very good. He was even in The Replacements, your favorite movie ever. I don't think we should put this on the director. I don't know who to put it on exactly. Probably the executives. And again, it's one of those unfortunate David Fincher situations where David Fincher was like, I'm going to make cool movies. And then the executives were like, no, you make shit now. He was like, okay, I'll make shit. And then years later, he was allowed to go, well, now that my contract is up, I will just go ahead and let you know that movie's fucking shit. And I didn't do anything to fucking fix it because I wasn't allowed to. Maybe that's the case that we're facing down right now. Jon Favreau was probably paid an exorbitant amount of money to make Lion King, and probably took a lot of that money and put it into making other projects that we love and adore to this day. We shouldn't blame the creator on its less than idealities, considering that there are so many people behind the scenes pulling a lot of strings. Unfortunately, this isn't the kind of thing that can be so simply put into one person. I wish it were. That's sort of the one of the misnomers of filmmaking, that we put all of the credit onto the director, or all of the pressure onto the director, when in reality, it takes a crew of hundreds of people, several, weeks, maybe even months, to make a movie. So there's a lot of opportunities for other people to have fucked something up. There's great examples of this. The Crow, probably one of the biggest fuck-ups in film history. That was a mistake on a lot of different people's behalfs. Well, let's go ahead and call it for today. We'll come back with a good movie, hopefully next time. I'll have to
please
go out of my way to find us a solid one to talk nonsense about. Let's call it that.
Bye, guys.